India is slowly catching on to the trend of maxi scooters, big, powerful and practical scooters which don't look like a run-of-the-mill Activas, Vigos, Jupiters or whatever you own. Aprilia knew it had to undercut its competition to make some sort of dent in the market, and well, they've come out with this. Enter the SXR 160. Built on the same underpinnings as the SR 160, this thing is Aprilia's jab at the maxi market, but with a hefty price tag of almost 1.5 lakh rupees on road. Today, let's find out if this thing can actually redeem itself when it comes to its pricing.
Astonishingly, the SR 160 actually has a longer wheelbase than the bigger and badder SXR 160. 1365mm compared to the SXR's 1353mm. Most of the engine specs are the same. You get the air-cooled 160cc single-cylinder motor like we all know. It is super fast, except in the SXR it somehow makes 0.2 bhp more for all of you number crunchers. The brakes are also identical, with a disc brake setup at the front and a drum brake setup at the rear.
So the main difference between the SXR and the SR is actually in the bodywork. You get a massive fairing up front and a longer back end as well. This helps increase the pillion seat as well, because in the SR 160 the pillion seat was basically non-existent and sometimes you had problems in fitting a child also at the back. But that's not the case with this, and actually the SXR is 5mm longer than the SR. The main difference when it comes to ride quality and why it's been improved so much on the SXR is because of the wheels. Gone are those massive 14-inch rims and now you get smaller 12-inch rims which increase the ride quality by a massive margin. Although the suspension setup is pretty similar. The front forks are identical to the SR. The monoshock absorber at the back is now adjustable in this, whereas it's not adjustable in the SR.
When you start riding the SXR, you can certainly feel the added weight on it. It feels bigger, it turns in with a little less enthusiasm, whereas the SR 160 rips through the bends like a breeze. This all comes down to the way the SXR's handlebar is also set up. It is much more relaxed, comfy, whereas the SR 160 still has the aggression in its riding position. But when it comes to comfort and utility, the SXR trumps the SR 160 by a large margin. The smaller 12-inch wheels ease out the bumps, with the suspension also being a little bit less stiff compared to the SR. But if you want to compare it to something like a Bergman, the SXR is still a little bit on the stiffer side. There is much more legroom for the rider in the footwell, and overall the SXR feels like a completely different scooter. It also has some added storage with a nice little pocket up front where you can keep your phone. It gets a USB charger as well and a bigger boot to keep your luggage. The SR 160 is the traffic slicer of the two, with its lower weight, slimmer dimensions and more eager handling. The SXR on the other hand feels like a touring version of the SR. You can say that the SR 160 is a Ninja H2, whereas the SXR 160 is the H2 SX. Big wide dimensions, more stable at high speeds and a more comfy ride setup. If you're someone looking for a bike in 1.5 lakhs which has ample power, great high-speed stability and a relatively comfy ride, the SXR 160 is a great alternative for a bike. Because to be honest, in the real world this is much faster than a bike because it has a CVT transmission, so you don't have to worry about shifting gears, and it has Aprilia's 160cc engine which is bonkers powerful.
Looks are totally subjective, but the SXR actually, in my opinion, is a really nice looking bike. It totally embraces the Aprilia lineage that it has. I mean, just look at the front end. These distinctive 3-piece headlights, they look like something that has been taken inspiration directly from the RSV4 or the Tuono. The back end, especially the grab handles which are there, they look like the cowl of the RSV4, and even the tail lights, they look like the Tuono 660's tail light somehow. All in all, I think so this is a really nice looking bike, especially in this matte black paint. And when it comes to comparing it to the SR 160, well, they're not really direct competitors, but this takes more design cues from the Aprilia lineup more than the SR160 in my opinion. One thing Aprilia really had to change was the instrument cluster. Gone are those old cheap plasticky analog dials you used to get on the SR. Now you get this nice looking LCD screen over here. It has loads of information on it, and in fact this is one of the only scooters I've ever seen in my life which has a rev counter on it. Well, the main deciding factor for most people is going to be the price tag. This SXR 160 costs almost 1.26 lakh rupees ex showroom, and with its closest maxi scooter competition, the Bergman 125, this thing is almost 40,000 rupees more expensive than that. But that's the thing, you cannot compare the Bergman and the SXR because, well, the Bergman is a 125cc and this is a 160cc. So if there is a Bergman 150cc or 160cc somewhere in the future, then that is the correct comparison. And if at that price point you're thinking, well, I'd rather just get a bike, well, that's also not the case, because this thing is actually as powerful as most bikes at that price point. This thing is actually much more faster in my opinion, because you don't have to think about shifting gears or anything. This thing has a CVT transmission. It is much more easier to handle in the city, and it has great highway cruising capability, and it still is more practical because it has a lot of cubby holes and a big boot in the back. So if you're looking for something like a bike or something to replace your bike with something more comfortable, or maybe something that is much more practical for your daily use for long travels or something like that, the SXR 160 is the choice for you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're interested in more interesting automotive content, give us a follow on Instagram, because we keep on adding some stories over there and have some interesting car news, bike news and other things that come along with it. While you're still there, why don't you give us a subscribe and give us a like on this video and share this video with your friends if you think this video was that good. Comment down below what you think about the SXR 160. This is Soham Saraf, and I'll see you in the next one.